Good morning. My name is Vanessa. Welcome. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules to come to our workshop on lesson planning. We really appreciate it. I've been at the Academy for about 17 years. I recognize a lot of your faces. And I've probably been teaching for about 25. But I will never forget the first day that I walked into a classroom and had an audience of kids staring at me and thinking, how am I going to get through this? So hopefully, by the end of this workshop, you guys will have the confidence that you need and the tools to actually create a successful and engaging lesson plan for your students. We're going to actually start with a warm-up. And what I'd like you to do, you have a handout on your desk. And what I'd like you to do is I want you to think about a typical class period. How many of you are actually new teachers or new to teaching? Okay, good. So we have a mix of new and seasoned teachers. What I'd like you to do is I want you to jot down a list of all the things that need to get done by you and your students in a typical class session. If you've never taught before, you can just imagine what you think needs to get done. And just right there in that blank space, just jot down your ideas. How many people need a little more time? Okay, what I'd like you to do is turn to a partner. We're really squeezed in here, but turn to a partner and share your ideas with a partner. Wow, this is a huge group, and it's really great to hear all you guys discussing. So give me some ideas. What needs to get done in a typical class session? Attendance. Uh-huh. That's it? Homework assignment? Uh-huh. What else? What else?
Set one key concept or learning goal.
Nice.
Inspirational share out.
Oh, nice. Inspirational share out? I know, it's great. That's it?
Give feedback on what they're not understanding.
Uh-huh.
A lecture interrupted by questions to the students.
I was waiting for somebody to be brave enough to say lecture. Okay.
Demo.
Lecture, demo.
Break time.
Break time, super important. As those seasoned teachers know, most of the classes here run 3 hours, and some of them are 6 hours, some are 5. So the break is super important. So you guys probably came up with a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm sorry for you folks that we ran out of seats. There's one here that maybe we can use, and I've only got one handout left, so you're all going to have to share. If anybody wants to come up and get the handout, could somebody hand that back there? So what needs to get done in a class? There's tons of stuff that needs to get done in the class. And what I've found in my experience is that the seasoned teachers feel like a 3 or 6 hour class is not enough time to get everything done. And the new teachers think, oh my gosh, how the heck am I going to fill 3 or 6 hours of class? So guess what? The trick is to have a really efficient, organized lesson plan. But really what we need to remember is that teaching is more than just imparting information. You're not just up there lecturing for 3 hours. For obvious reasons, it's exhausting to you and it's exhausting to the students. So effective teachers create basically what we call multi-part lesson plans. And what you're doing is you're sort of orchestrating a learning experience where you're informing students, you're motivating students, you're giving them time to practice, you're giving them time to apply new information. You're checking in with them to see if they're understanding things. So it's actually a lot of activities happen in a lesson plan. And on the handout that I gave you, you can see that successful lesson plans revolve around doing 3 things. And the first one is identifying what students need to learn. And basically we call those learning outcomes, and we'll come back to that. The second one, planning what you and your students will do to facilitate learning and sharing that plan with your students. Super important step. And 3, planning ways to find out what students have actually learned. So let's look at number 1, identifying what students need to learn, or learning outcomes. And I believe that that is somebody, who put this one? Who mentioned that one? Excellent. Okay, are you a new teacher or a seasoned teacher?
I am new.
A new teacher. Okay, very impressive. So you want to set a learning goal, or what we call here at the Academy, learning outcomes. You want to identify what is it that the students need to learn. And learning outcomes, they need to be measurable and observable. So they need to actually explain what is it that the students will be able to do when they leave each of my class sessions. Students need to be able to demonstrate that they've actually understood and learned what you've been trying to teach in that class. And that's part of the reason we don't use the words learn and understand in the learning outcome. We really want observable, measurable words like create, or demonstrate, or apply, or draw, all of those sort of active verbs where you can really see that the students have understood what it is that you're trying to teach them. Basically, it's very difficult to be an effective teacher if you can't articulate what you want your students to be able to do. You need to be able to go through your head and articulate, what is it that I want my students to take away from class today? What is it that I want them to do? So for example, in my outcomes today on the worksheet up here, you'll see that you, the students today, there are 3 learning outcomes. Identify and use the key elements of an effective lesson plan. Experiment with and discuss different approaches to structuring and engaging lesson plans. And network with new and seasoned colleagues to share teaching ideas. So these are all active things that you're going to be doing that are going to show me that you are hopefully taking something away from this session. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, planning. So planning what you and your students will do to facilitate learning, and then sharing that plan with your students. So why would you not want to just lecture for 3 hours or 6?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. The students get bored. Why else? Why is it important to vary activities? People have different learning styles. They take in information in different ways. Why else?
Keep students focused.
Keep students focused. Keep people interested. Why else? It's an art school. Okay, yes. You didn't get a handout. You know what? I am unfortunately out of handouts. What? Oh, no, you know what? You can take mine. There you go. It's an art school. Why would you want to share your plan with your students? A lot of us spend a lot of time planning our classes, and we come to class and we're super organized, but we don't ever share our plan with our students. Why is it super important to share that plan?
For me, the more I feel part of the process, the more interested I am in learning.
Okay, good. Good. Okay, so to engage students in that process, why else? It's kind of simple.
Your lesson plan keeps you on track, but it also keeps them on track.
Lesson plan keeps you and them on track. And why else?
They know what to expect.
They know what to expect, right? Anybody else?
Well, they want to know where the destination is going to be.
Okay.
At the end of the class.
Right, they want to know the destination. And also, you want to show them that you've actually thought about the class. You know, that you've actually prepared for class. Super important. You're all experts in your field, and the students are aware of that. But being an expert in your field doesn't mean you can just walk into a class unprepared, because the students, oh boy, will they know that you came in unprepared. So it's really, really important that you plan a lesson and then that you show them a lesson. So for example, what you might want to do is write an agenda on the board when you first come in. So today, we did an intro, we did an activity, we talked about lesson plan, keys. We're going to do outcome activity, and you're going to create a lesson plan. So I gave you a whole handout, and you don't have to do that for your students. You don't need to give them a piece of paper with the whole thing structured out. What you can do is every day you go into class, and on the left hand or the right hand side of the board, you actually just list what it is that you're going to do, and there's actually one more activity that we're going to do, but you list what it is that you're going to do, your agenda for the day. And that has two really good benefits. One, it shows the student that you've actually put thought into the class, that you're taking that seriously. And you're modeling professionalism and organization, which is really what you expect from your students. So important that we do that for our students. Number two, when students come in late, you don't stop the class. They can look at the board and they can actually see where they are and what they've missed. So they can think about what they've missed and they can talk to their peers and try to catch up during the break. And they don't have to interrupt the class. All right? So really important that we share our plan. We want our students to know that we care about what we're doing, that we're organized, and we're here to help them be as successful as possible. All right. So when we vary the activities, what we came up with we call building blocks. And there are various lesson plan building blocks to help you create your lesson plan. And the first one is motivate, which somebody said in a very fancy way, which I just erased. But the first one is motivate, and that's where you want to direct and you engage your student. Another one is inform. When we talk about inform, does that just come in lectures? How else can we inform students? How else can we inform them?
By having them do something, an activity.
Having them do an activity. How else?
Media.
Media.
Shared experience.
Shared experience.
Discussing.
Discussing. Field trips. Guest speakers. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to inform. You just don't have to stand in the class and talk. Okay. Practice, where you have your students doing practice, and that often looks like pairs or group work or individual work in the classroom where you're having them practice the new skills that you're teaching. We also have a building block called apply. Does anybody know the difference between practicing and applying?
Supply more assessment.
Little bit, yeah?
Show them what, like, this is how you sew lap zipper, and this is how you use it. Hold up a pair of pants, show them that this is the end result of
Okay.
a skirt, or this is all the different ways you can actually use what.
Okay. So you're talking from a teacher's perspective, the difference between practice and apply.
Oh.
From a student's perspective, what would the difference between practice and apply?
Would it apply be more specific tasks? Like,
Yes.
This is where we cut, this is how you do this, and this is exactly what you do in this specific situation.
To some degree, but essentially the difference between practice and apply. Yes, one more time.
Practice, I assume, would happen more in the class time, and
Yes.
apply would happen when they
Yes.
do it at
Practice is guided practice. It's generally in the classroom. You're generally working with your peers or the teacher. Application, you're often doing it individually, and you're often applying it to new contexts. And this is really where you can see if the student has understood it, when they're actually applying it on their own in a new context. We also have check-in. Does anybody know what check-in means? Check-in is when you're checking to see if your students understand, and this happens throughout a lesson plan. The interesting thing about check-in is that it actually addresses the third key to a lesson plan, which is planning ways to find out if your students have actually learned. And you can do this through comprehension questions, you can do this through low-stakes quizzes, you can do this through learning snapshots, just checking in with students throughout the 3 or 6 hour period and seeing if they're understanding what it is that you're trying to get across to them. And we also have to account for assigning and explaining homework. And class business. What do you think would go under class business?
scheduling field trips.
Scheduling field trips, sort of for you.
Due dates on projects.
Due dates on projects,
Papers and projects.
handy back papers, yep, collecting homework, taking attendance, all of that stuff. All right, so these are what we call building blocks. And you essentially take all of these and you arrange and rearrange and use them and reuse them to create your lesson plan. Each of these blocks have various activities, and when we actually get into the activity where you're creating a lesson plan, you'll see the different activities that come under each of those blocks. So what I'd like us to do now is to do a little practice. So on your part 3, where it says learning outcomes activity, we're going to practice identifying what students need to learn. What I'd like you to do is I want you to think about one of the modules that you will be teaching. Now, I know some of you haven't logged on to your new courses, and some of you at this point might not know exactly what it is that you're teaching. But what I want you to do, if you don't know what you're going to be teaching, think about your discipline, okay? And I want you to come up with a learning outcome for your students for that particular class. Now, if you need help, at the back of your packet is a handout. Useful terminology for writing active learning outcomes. All right? So again, you want to write a learning outcome for one class that you will be teaching, and you want to use measurable, observable language. And so the verbs are here. There's a great list of we use this as a cheat sheet. And I want you to finish the sentence, students will be able to. And you can write it right there on your handouts. Students will be able to. So for example, here, you guys, students will be able to use building blocks to create an effective lesson plan. Hopefully that's a learning outcome that you'll leave with today. Okay? So take a few minutes and go ahead and write a learning outcome. If you want to work with a partner, you're welcome to work with a partner. Does anybody need a little more time? Okay, so again, with a partner, share your learning outcome, and I want you to offer feedback. Is the verb observable? Is it possible? Can the students achieve this? Can you see that the students have achieved what it is that you're trying to teach? Okay, so with a partner. Wow, I have to say, it's really, I've been doing the lesson planning workshop for quite a while, and I've changed things here and there, and my colleagues have really helped me with the lesson planning workshop. We've all taken it at different times, but I have to say that I'm really, really impressed by how quickly you guys understood the importance of using active verbs and measurable, observable verbs in your learning outcomes. I mean, almost all the ones that I saw and that I read were really right on and very clear. You could look at the outcome, and I could see how I would be able to see whether your students understood what you were learning. So kudos to you guys. It was really kind of exciting to see that the word learning outcome isn't so scary, and that people actually can create their own without too much guidance. So that's really great. Does anybody have any questions about learning outcomes at the moment, or we can just move on to the next activity? You guys good? Okay, so let's move on to the next activity. And in this one, we're going to look at the other two elements of creating a successful lesson plan. So we're back to the idea of planning a lesson plan and also planning how to check in with your students for understanding. So what I would like you to do is I want you to break into, I think I'm going to have to say groups of 4 or 5, because I don't know if I have enough packets because we have such a large group here. So break into groups of 4 or 5, and I want somebody from that group to come up and get an envelope. Okay? You're going to open the envelope, and you're going to follow the directions in there for creating an engaging lesson plan. Now, I'm here to help you. You don't have to just rely on the written word. I'll come around and make sure you're all on task. And basically what you're going to be doing, you are going to be using the walls as your palette for creating a lesson plan. That doesn't mean you can take your Sharpies and write on the walls. Please don't. I have painter's tape. I only have 3 rolls. I meant to buy 8, but it's really expensive, so I just bought 3, and you have to share. But in your envelopes, you will have lesson planning cards, okay? And you will also have a learning outcome card where you will write a learning outcome. And what you're going to do is you're going to, with the blue tape, you're going to tape the learning outcome up on the wall. And then, as a group, you're going to structure a lesson plan using these different cards. And you're going to tape them, okay? And sequence them, how you're going to actually go through the lesson in your class. And then we're going to discuss them and talk about the ways that you guys approached your lesson planning. Okay? So that's just kind of a brief overview. We can go over the directions together. All right, so break into groups of 4 or 5, please. All right, here we go. All right, talk about it. Yeah, yeah. So you could put up assignment in another place.
Do what the goals are for the class, and that going into inform, so that would be part. I would basically.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull us all back. Yeah, you guys. That was some really great discussion and justifications for why you were choosing to do things the way you were doing. It was really exciting to listen to you guys arguing through your perspectives. No, we should do motivate first. No, we should assign for homework first. No, I think we should check in 4 times. Really great to hear all of this kind of discussion. So since this one is up here, I guess we can just look at this one. Can somebody from this group come and talk me through this again?
I'll do it.
You want to do it? Okay. All right. Come on up.
She doesn't mind. She's the one who
Okay.
designed.
All right.
Okay. So we have a landscape design-based module. So analyze the grading plan and calculate slope percentage. Bet. 2 points. Did I explain that right?
Between.
Between 2 points. Bet. All right. So the first thing is take care of class business, attendance, housekeeping, that stuff. Motivate them. Tell them, hey, at the end of this, you're going to be doing this homework, which is this, and then getting them into it. Like, hey, this is going to kick ass. You're going to love it. Kind of putting some context around it, right? We're going to inform them. We're going to break it down to modular pieces. That's why we got this multiple times here. It's kind of an et cetera process. What she's actually doing, where she's informing, she's checking in. Hey, do you guys get it? And then we're practicing. We're doing stuff like this. So we do that over and over, so it's not just like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of lecture, people are falling asleep. Take a break, cigarette, have a cup of water, soak it in, come back. And then we get them back in, we motivate them again, because after the break they're probably a little bit tired from listening to a bunch of lectures. And then we give the assignment in more detail this time, again, providing context. Now go home, do it. So.
Okay. So brilliant. I spoke with this group earlier, and we, at the beginning, they actually didn't have this homework here. And I actually spoke to a few of you other groups, and I said to them, well, what happens if you're in this class and you get to the end of class and you run out of time and you haven't given the homework assignment, and so you just hand them the assignment and you expect them to do really, really well on the assignment? Doesn't go so well. The next week, they'll give you back their projects, or they'll say, I didn't understand the assignment. So this team went back, revisited that idea, and realized that one way to motivate people is maybe to actually give the assignment. This is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be making a really cool creating a grading plan, right? Get really excited about it. So essentially, the purpose of this activity and what you guys just experienced is to highlight not only the building blocks, because there are the 7 building blocks, but that you should reuse them and you can rearrange them. You don't have to do the same lesson every day in the same way. If you look around the classroom, people structured them very, very differently. Some people had checking class business twice. Some people do informing 3 times. Some people do checking in 4 times. So basically, when you go home to create your own lesson plans, think about all of these different building blocks and how you want to structure each of your lessons to be the most sort of informative and engaging lesson for you and the students. You have to get yourself through it as well, not just the students. So I don't know if any of you had time, but the last thing that I wanted you to do was sort of kind of in your groups exchange ideas about the different building blocks. So for example, motivating students. Is there anybody here who has a particular way that they like to motivate students? A particular activity? Yeah?
I like to, I share this with this group over here. I like to show them examples of people who are actually working in the industry that they're studying.
Mm-hmm.
And like for my discipline is going to be for motion picture.
Great.
So I'll show examples of movies that everyone knows,
Mm-hmm.
or movies that no one's ever heard of before, and just blow their minds away by that, and just demystify. He used the word demystify. Demystify the whole concept that, you know, you're all capable of this, and it's not that difficult.
Right, right. Any other ways that people motivate their students? Gary, how do you motivate your students?
Similarly, it's like showing them the end result.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like it helps in fashion if you can, like, the fashion show, I had a deaf student that it doesn't matter how many times we kind of worked, it wasn't until she visually saw the actual show
Right.
that everything kind of fell into place with her.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, that was really kind of like it. I mean, that was like the week before finals. But
Right.
She was like, she worked all really, really hard.
Right.
But, you know, visually kind of communicated.
Yeah. Anybody else? How else? What are other ways that you can motivate students?
It's slightly different, but
Mhm.
stories from the trenches.
Stories from the trenches. Students love stories from the trenches. Yeah. And which trenches do you work in?
And they are trenches, the film industry.
Oh, the film. Okay, I actually was going to say, I think it's film. I think that's right. Yeah. Other ideas for motivating students in different disciplines?
Put them in front of the classroom.
Put them in front of the classroom. That sounds really scary.
No, they usually like it.
Uh-huh.
I think everybody's a little bit of a ham.
Yeah. Okay. Right. How else?
Field trips.
Field trips. Field trips are really motivating. Yeah.
Guest speakers.
Guest speakers. Guest speakers from the industry. Again, really motivating.
Just activities for
Activities, yeah. Interesting, engaging activities. Sometimes motivate students by having them come up with ideas for their own activities of what they would like to do. Really connecting what you're going to do in the classroom to their interests and connecting it, what they're learning in the classroom, to what they will be doing. The fashion show, the trenches, yeah. Other questions about... Okay, yeah, let me just open up the floor. Questions about lesson planning or questions about any of the building blocks? No? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As far as like the setup and the way that it's done here, I'm a first timer.
Uh-huh.
Do you have people, I know that there's going to be somebody that's going to come in on a
Yes.
third or fourth
Yes.
time, but I imagine after my first time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, all this stuff is going to be, you know,
In one ear and out the other?
it will be complicated, you know, because
Yes.
I think that once I actually put it into an actual course,
Yeah. It gets more complicated. Yes, once you start plugging the content in.
What is the process here? Is it touching base with somebody like you?
Yes.
specifically
So,
for this kind of a
yes.
thing, or-
So I happen to be a faculty developer, and I will meet with many of you, come visit you in your class. Again, we're not evaluators, so I'll come visit you in your class. And that's basically so I can get an idea of what your expertise is or what your discipline is, because I don't have expertise in film or fashion or anything other than teaching and a few other things, but none of the big ones that you guys do. So I will come to your class, and then we'll get together and talk about it. But that doesn't mean you can't reach out to me first. So anybody here who's new or a seasoned teacher, my email is at the very top here. And feel free to email me. And I'm happy to talk to you, to meet with you, to email, to help you through your first week, because it can be really scary. I mean, theoretically, we're looking at this sort of globally. It gets a little more complicated when you're plugging in your own content, and I'm more than happy to help you in any way that I can. And that is what faculty development's for. And that's, you know, there's a team of 8 of us, and we're all there to help you. If I'm not available, somebody else will be available to help you. And I've worked with many people in this room. I continue to work with many people in this room, and I hope to work with many of you. And hopefully, some of you who are new will actually be on my caseload. I'll go through, and anybody who was in my session, I'll try to put on my caseload. Because it's kind of scary when you have a new person come in who you haven't met, and you're worried about your teaching. And, you know, all of us are super nice, and again, we're not there to evaluate. So we're really just there to visit you and support you and give you ideas. How do I plug my content into a lesson plan? How do I make it real? So that's a really good question, and we are there to help you every step of the way for any of you. Any other questions? And again, thank you so much. It was really fun working with, wow, such a big group. It was great.